grade, we all know that feeling. I don't care if you're a Muslim or an atheist or whatever. That's the common ground. That's why Jesus is the suffering servant, because he knows what it feels like to suffer, because all people do, right? And we want to make suffering redemptive. Anyway, so we're laying there, and it's just, the enemy is just so like, there's no way out of this. Because there's nothing, there's no one to call, there's no way to leave, there's nothing you can do about it. And because I wasn't Muslim, I'm not allowed to defend myself. Like, no one's going to give me the chance to say the context in which I said what I said. It was just like, the Muslim guy that charged me was the only witness. And so he would speak, and then another Muslim could speak on my behalf, but none of them liked me, because I offended them all the time with my Christianity. I wasn't, yeah. This is a bad strategy, by the way, for missions, to go into a country and say, hey, you know that book you guys love? It's from hell. That's a horrible strategy. And especially when you're standing in their country, and then that prophet you think is a prophet, he's a pedophile and a terrorist. They do not respond well to those apologetics and polemic statements, which we think are so awesome when we tell other people how wrong and dumb they are for what they believe. Just a little side note, in case you ever decide to do that, don't do that. Don't insult other people as a way to win them. It doesn't work. So anyway, so we just pray, and I actually told our oldest son, who was still kind of too young to understand what's going on, but the day I was going to the trial, I said to him, I might not see you for a while because you know how I told you we're coming here to work with students. He was like, yeah. And I said, well, sometimes God changes our ministry, and I'm going to go into prison ministry now. I'm just trying to make it light a bit. And I'm going to probably work for 10 years with prisoners, and I'll be back when you're 16. And this is what he says, is Mom going? And I said, no, and he's like, all right, well. So he was obviously not going to be traumatized by this in the future. So I went to the trial, and so there was the most powerful Muslim in Indonesia was involved in it because he couldn't stand that we were there. So when I go into the room where the trial was, it wasn't really a trial, it was just the sentencing hearing, basically. And so I go in there, 3 clerics, the head of the university, who really actually did like us, and an empty seat, and then the dean that charged me. I go in there and I sit down. Here's what I was mad about, though. What they said, I did. They weren't making anything up. They weren't making up charges. I broke their law. According to their law, I broke their law. Even in the context I said, still violated their law. And I disrespected their law. And I was mad at myself because I got lazy and I said something I shouldn't have said. So I couldn't really be mad at them because they're just saying what I said and it's against the law. And so when the dean was like saying the charges, I was like, that's exactly what I said, man. Why did I say that? And I was frustrated, and I was saying to the Lord, like, what do you want me to know about this? What can I do about this? Like, I get it, it was my fault. And plus all the other stuff I said, isn't really love. I wasn't just sharing the love of Jesus, I was just arguing against Islam with Christianity. That's why you can't do this in the marketplace, because if that's what you're doing, all you're doing is creating conflict. You're not bringing peace and transformation, and that's what we were doing, is creating conflicts. Anyway, so I was frustrated with myself. They say the charges, and there's nothing I can say, and then the lead cleric, he says, does anyone have anything to say on his behalf? And the door opens in the back of the room. It wasn't this big of a room, it was similar. And the door opens, and this guy walks past me, comes up to the front, and he stands in front of the clerics. And he's an Indonesian, obviously a Muslim, because he's walking right in and can speak. So he has to be a Muslim. He's obviously Indonesian. He's dressed as a professor. And in English, the whole thing's in Indonesian. In English, he says, I have something I want to say. And they let him speak immediately. So not only is he a Muslim and Indonesian, but he has wasta, we say, he has authority. Because not many Muslims would walk into that situation. And he says, I have something I want to say, and then I'll just say it and I'll leave. And they're like, okay. And he says, you all know who I am. And they're all like, yes, we know who you are. And I was thinking, who are you? And he said, who are you? Like, are you on my team? but he says, I just want to say one thing. He said, when I was in the U.S. studying, and he's speaking English to show them how much more educated he is than them. I knew that's what he was doing. He said, when I was in the U.S. studying for my PhD, another little insult to his rank, he said, I was studying at Arizona State University, a pure linguistics PhD program. He said, when I arrived there with my wife to study in that program sent by the Indonesian government, I realized very quickly that I would fail. Now, a Muslim would never say that publicly, that he would fail. So now I'm thinking, he's a Muslim, he has a lot of power, but he's a different kind of Muslim because he just said that he was going to fail. Wow, that's interesting that he's that authentic. He said, but I knew I was going to fail, and he said, so once I realized I was going to fail, I realized my career was over because I'm under a full scholarship from the Indonesian government, and I'm going to fail, and I'll be blackballed and never work again. And I sat on the couch in the apartment with my wife, and we wept in failure. I was like, who is this guy? Like, you don't talk like that in a shame honor culture. You don't talk like that. And so he said, I'm sitting there with my wife crying, and someone knocks at the door. I go to the door, open the door, and it's these two American PhD students. And they come into my apartment and they say, we realize that your PhD program is really hard in English. And English is your second language. You're going to really struggle. We're in the same program. We are here to make sure you pass. He doesn't even know who they are. And they said, we will do everything we can to help you pass this PhD program. And that's what he tells the court. And then he says to the court, no matter, those two guys were never too tired, never too busy. Whenever I called them, they came, their wives took care of my wife, and when we finished the 3 years of the PhD program, I finished higher than both of them because they sacrificed their levels for me. And he said, I am here because of them. He goes, now here's the thing about those two guys. He said, I knew them for about a month or two, and he said, and one night they invited me to this meeting they have on Wednesday nights, and I was like, you're not going to say this, are you? Because now I know who these guys are, at least I think, because I don't know many people that would sacrifice themselves like that. And he says, so they invited me to a meeting on a Wednesday night, and I went to that meeting, and that meeting was a Bible study. That's what he says in the Islamic court. It was a Bible study. He goes, I went to that Bible study every Wednesday night for 3 years. Whoa. He said, is anyone in this room going to say I'm a bad Muslim? And he just looks around, everyone's like, no. He goes, now here's the thing that bothers me. He said, we know that Christianity is a lesser religion than Islam. We know it. They sort of came this far, but we're the end. We're the final. We're the highest. The Muslims are the highest. He goes, so I'm in their country of the lower religion, and I'm actually potentially their enemy because I'm a Muslim and I'm a competitive student to them of the lower religion. And the lower religion guys sacrifice everything for me, and they loved me unconditionally, and I have a PhD because of these guys. Now we have one of them here. He points to me, and he says, now we're the higher religion. We're better than Christians. So they sacrificed for me as a Muslim. Now we have a Christian here in our land, and we're going to put him in jail? He said, I just don't think that's right. And he said, thank you very much. And he left. And the main cleric goes, I think we can drop these charges right now. And they all agreed, like, you're free to go. And so I was like, it was like, am I really free? Like, is this, you're free to go? Go, leave. And so I kind of backed out. I was nervous, it was like a fleeing felon or something. But I backed out and I walked all the way. I got outside, and the guy was standing there. His name's Husni, and I thought, like, was this an angelic presence or something? But he was smoking, and then I thought, nah. And if he was, it would screw up my vacation Bible school teaching. So, but he's out there smoking, and I'm like, who the heck are you? I mean, who are you? And he said, did you see the empty seat up there in the front? Yes. He goes, you know who was supposed to be sitting there? And I said, yeah, the most powerful Muslim in Indonesia, the lead guy of the country. And he said, yeah, you know why he's not there? And I said, no. And he was killed yesterday in a car accident. He goes, I'm the new highest ranking Muslim in the country. And he goes, I just got appointed yesterday. And he said, and so I was just looking through what's going on. And he was in Jakarta. We were like the distance from where he was to where I am was like flying from Boston to California. He said, I was reading and I saw this situation, and he said, finally I have a chance to thank my two friends. And he got on a plane and flew out there to pay back his friends. This is what he said to me. He said, listen, I came here to help you because of those two men. He goes, but let me tell you something about what you're doing. You are insulting my people by the way you talk. He said, I know you're here because God called you and you want us to understand Jesus. He said, I get all that, but you better find a different way to say it, because we will kill you here the way you're talking. And then that guy protected us like crazy while we were there. But I knew that what the Lord was teaching me two lessons. One is there is nowhere where you can be where he is not fully present and fully, totally in control. Amen. Nowhere. So, and two is, before I start telling a person about Jesus, I should probably ask God what to say. And say how Jesus would say something to people, and not how an angry Christian would talk to people to make them feel like they're wrong and I'm right. And that's what God was telling me, and that's the process he took me through to make sure I never made that mistake again. And I haven't. So, yeah, that's what happened. Yeah.